This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be talking to Duy Nguyễn about The Sympathizer. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Can you tell me about your knowledge of this show, the book, the role, etc.?
Oof. Okay. I read the book in 2016 for the first time when I heard that Duy Nguyễn won the Pulitzer Prize. It was a huge thing among the Vietnamese community. So I read it for the first time, and my English was terrible back then because I moved to Canada in 2014, so I was only 2 years in, and I didn't speak a lot of English when I first got to Canada. So it took me like a few months to finish the book, and took me like 10 more time to understand the book. And then I saw the casting call in 2022 when my friend Fred Nguyen, who played the character Bone in the show, asked me to read for his audition. And at first I thought it was a scam because it's like there's no way we have Robert Downey Jr., Park Chan Wook, and like A24 HBO doing this. But turns out it's to be true, and now we're here.
What's your enthusiasm about Park Chan-wook? Can you talk about any favorite projects
Oh,
previously?
yeah, yeah. Oh, I watched Old Boy when I was 12. That's my it's first
A little
exposure to
early,
yeah,
probably. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, don't recommend watching Old Boy when you're 12. Uh, but that's how I got exposed to Park Chan Wook, and I've been a fan of him since then. It's so the fact that I got like I was so excited to just get the call back, so I get to actually talk to him in person. So to the fact that now I have done a show with him, it's still weird to say out loud. But he is a visionary. He is incredible, and he made me a much much better actor now. After working with him, and I recommend everybody if you get the chance to work with Park, no matter what project, do it.
For fans of The Sympathizer who haven't seen his previous work, what do you think comes closest to this one?
You mean like for like
Like
the
tone, just what's the obviously a lot of the stuff is a bit edgier, and so even though this show is still
right?
edgy, but what do you think is the best next step for curious wannabe fans?
Ooh, for people who haven't have no knowledge of the sympathizer, you mean? Uh, oh, that's a that's a tough questions. Um, uh, you mean like for them to get into the show or?
If they're already into the show and then want to get into Park Chan-wook as a result
Oh, I
afterwards.
see what you mean.
Sorry, other way
Oh,
around. Yeah, yeah.
I see what I see what you mean. For them to get into Park Chan Wook. The Revenge trilogy. That's a good. It's very weird to say now that the Revenge trilogy is actually his worst film because every single film he'd done after that, it's just getting better and better and better. But that's how he got known globally, I think, is with that. But my favorite, I think you should watch once in your life is The Handmaiden. So yeah, do that. Handmaiden.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the sympathizer. Can you talk about this role specifically? And aside from the chance to work with Park Chan-wook and just this book being so powerful, what about this role drew you in?
Yeah. Well, yeah, my character Mutton, he is a dentist during the day, but during the night, he is a revolutionist and he also a spy handler. He's the one sending the captain away to America to spy on the general and the American, which starts off the series. And I can talk about Mutton for days. He he is something that is, oh my God. I basically built him from the ground up when I worked on the show because he's so much different from who I am. He is this authority figure. He has this screen presence. Every time he's on screen, all eyes on him, and you know, he's the one guiding the captain throughout his journey. And I won't spoil anything, in case. So you just have to continue watching to see where it goes. But there's a lot of work to do with Mun to bring him to life. It's I basically locked myself in the room for like 6 months just to figure out his character, and physically, mentally, and and yeah, how does he talk, how does he walk.
You have a great scene partner, and wow, what is it like working with him?
It's he's amazing. Wow, it's God, he's one of the most incredible actor ever seen, actually. He gives so much. He's so generous. Um, most of my scenes were with Hua, actually. So it's he's it's such a blessing to have a scenes partner where you can just not only share the scene with, but also share the responsibility and the pressure of being on this big budget production with. And also we we kind of knew this is our first big project ever, and then we kind of knew how special this project is for us as Vietnamese actor, and also for millions of Vietnamese people watching. So every day on set, just to have that shoulder to lean on, to share the pressure with, was incredible. And also our chemistry, we gel from the start. So um we keep it light, we make a lot of jokes, we ruin a lot of takes.
I think the show also has a great sense of humor, which is interesting because it's a very serious subject in
Right.
some ways, but also there are definitely some comedy elements. And I think a lot of that also comes from Robert Downey Jr., who you mentioned, and enthusiasm for getting to work with. What is
Right.
it like just being around him and seeing all the crazy stuff he's doing?
Right, yeah. Robert was very like responsible for a lot of the lighter moments in the show. Um, and it's so great to have someone like Robert playing, all these characters and being on set. He keeps the tone light for everyone. He makes jokes, he keep it fun. He remembers everybody's name. Um, so even though I don't have any scenes with Robert Downey Jr., I get to watch him work, and it's such a masterclass every time. And yeah, I don't know, the show wouldn't be what it is without Robert Downey Jr. as a producer and as playing all these characters. And a lot of people actually ask me every single episode, why are Robert playing all these characters? And I have to say, you just wait. Just have to wait, Use the overall we all fall into its place at the end of it.
You mentioned a lot of excitement from the Vietnamese community about this,
Mhm.
coming to become a series. Do you think people are happy or familiar with the book with the series, or do you think the series is substantially different from the book?
It's different from the book, but I think the series captured the tone of the book. Like it's the best, it's the closest of an adaptation you can get from the book. Because the book was called the unadaptable novel for a reason, And as a fan of the book myself, I'm very, very, very happy of what they've done to the show. Um, and I don't, as an actor, I don't really I want to go out there and ask people opinion about the show for my mental health, and what's done is done. But what I'm happy about is actually the show is starting debates around the world, from the Americans people, from the Vietnamese American people, and also from the Vietnamese people from Vietnam. And that's what I'm very happy about. Now that we're talking again about this war, we're starting to talk about the trauma that it left with the people, with the Vietnamese diaspora around the globe, and people starting to share their stories. And there are also people who are skeptical about the accuracy of the show and start fact checking the show. And by doing that, they're doing the research, and then they start figuring out the real history for themselves. And that's the best thing you can do as artists. You know, that's how you change the world.
Well, it's very interesting, and I know that I just even the first scene, when they say that we call it the Vietnam War here in America,
Oh,
and
right.
Vietnam they call it the American War. That's just framing it like that
That's
sets
it
such
is
a
true.
perfect
Yeah.
tone.
And it's funny because the first time I heard of in Vietnam, we don't talk about the war. We kind of moved on. Vietnamese people in America and around the globe, they still, it's still like a deep trauma for them because they have to carry the pain of moving away from from their homeland. So, but people from Vietnam, we moved on. So the first time I heard about the Vietnam War was when I first landed in Canada, and I kind of introduced myself to this random person, and they're like, "I'm from Vietnam," and they're like, "Oh, the Vietnam War." And I was like, "What Vietnam War? Vietnam never waged war with anyone."
Oh,
So,
well, you said that that this is causing people to doubt things and do research. Is it therefore
mhm.
considered controversial in Vietnam, the existence of this series?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that depicted in the show that that are not allowed to talk about in Vietnam that the government try to keep secrets. Um, so so yeah, the show is not being promoted in Vietnam and not being shown in Vietnam, but that makes people even more curious about it, and 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 I think that's even better than than actually showing it to the Vietnamese people. Um, I hear a lot of things online about people in Vietnam, actually getting their hands on the show and watching it and doing research on it, and then some people actually change their mind about stuff that they've been taught, which is like that's amazing.
What does this make you want to do next? Are you going to do another show, film? What's in the cards for you?
Yeah, it's this show is so special. I don't know if I have enough words to describe how special this is. It's the first time we have a 90% Vietnamese cast, and I've been with this show for the last like almost 2 years of my life. I'm kind of now that having a hard time accepting that it's done, that it's finished, that it's out there. Um, so I'm having a hard time moving on from it actually. So right now, I think I'm just focusing on myself at the moment, for the next couple of months, just to, okay, it's done. Now I have to let it go. It's like, so nothing lining up for me at the moment, but I'm very, very excited to see where it's gonna take me next. Even like, especially after people watch all of it, and see where my character goes, and
That's great.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, at Awards Buzz, we like to focus on awards, and while we certainly think The
Mhm.
Sympathizer is awards worthy, I'm curious if there's anything else that you watch that you think an actor or a show is particularly awards worthy at the moment.
At the moment, oh, I'm obsessed with Shogun. I mean, it's such a great show, and not only that, but also it's like it's a big, but like I wish the Sympathizer has Shogun's budget, but it's like a big budget production, but also they lean all into subtitles and telling the story in a foreign language in Japanese, and they pay so much attention in the accuracy of the scenery and the costume and the dialect, and that's set an example for every other show coming up. So I think Shogun needs that spotlight just as much as the Sympathizer.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking about
Thank
this
you
with you,
so
and I look
much.
forward to everyone seeing the whole show.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for having me.